Welcome to week 2 of Back to Biz Basics Flourish edition. In week 2, we are going to be asked to create a scatter plot, and we are going to be given data on cherry blossoms. So let's head over to our Excel file. We're going to start here. Yes, I have a nice picture of cherry blossoms. I'm even wearing my Washington Nationals cherry blossom t-shirt for this video. The data we're given are pretty simple. We've got the year in which the plant was the flower, the tree was planted here in column A. We've got the year that it blooms, the day that it blooms here in column B, the name of the flower here in column C, and then I created just a little counter for the month. I just use a simple little month formula in Excel. Remember that in Flourish we can't do formulas, so we have to do that work in Excel or R or whatever tool you use to do your calculation, set up your data. You need to do that there, and then you bring it into Flourish. So with this data all set, undo that, let's go over to Flourish. So I'm already set up here. I've got week 2. Let's create a new visualization. And for this one, we're going to create a scatter plot. So we're just going to scroll down here, and we've got a scatter plot all set up. So I'm going to click scatter plot, and it's going to open up the scatter plot menu. So let's go to the data tab and let's bring in our own data. And if I just click upload data, I can just bring in my own data. And so I've got this here on week 2. We'll go to the raw data. Here we go. And I'm going to open that up, and I want the whole data set. And again, it's going to prompt me to automatically choose the columns. It's going to overwrite everything. Let's get the data in here. Great. I've got the year, date of year, reference, name, and the month. So what do we want? On the X value of the scatter plot, we're going to want that year value. And on the Y value, we're going to want that day value right there. And then we're going to want the name here in column C. And let's come back to the month. I'll show you how I'm going to think about using that in a moment. Let's click preview. Let's see what we got. All right, we've got a scatter plot here. We've got a lot of different kinds of data here. We've got the month here, and we've got the year going on down along the bottom. So the first thing we need to do is just check like the format of our data. So there's some weird stuff going on in here. Remember, like, you make sure you always look at your data, but you notice that some of this isn't really sorted in the right way, right? This is 808. This is year 812. This is year 1831, but 1865 is to the left of that. So there's something definitely wrong. So let's go into our data and let's figure out what's going on. So remember, Flourish is using some sort of algorithm to figure out what your data are when they're read in. Well, let's take a look here and let's change the format of this. So this is not text. So this is actually going to be a date. So we're going to go in here and change this to a date type. And so we need to figure out what the input format is. And the input format for this one is going to be month or day, month, year. So that's the first one. And then for the output, we could leave it like that, but I want for this one, I just want the year. I don't need the exact date. So I'm just going to scroll down here. I think it's all the way towards the bottom. There it is, 1972. I'm going to click apply. And we need to do the same thing for the DOI variable. So I'm going to click right here. And the input formula, input format is correct the way it's set up. And here, there's a lot of ways we could do this. I'm just going to want to get the name of the month and then the day. So like April 4th, right? That's what I want. So I'm going to go in here and look for April 28th. There we go. So I'm going to click OK. And let's go back to our graph. So now this is arranged correctly because it's not text. So Flourish is reading this the way we want as a date. And then on the vertical axis, we actually have the dates from March 26th to May 7th. Perfect. We're doing well here. Now we can style this up. So let's change a few things. Let's change the color here. I want to use a pink color because it's cherry blossom. So I went in and found a color here. So E727BD is the hex color I'm going to use for this. Whatever makes you happy. There's that nice pink color. I do want to change the opacity here. I want to be able to see some of these overlaps. So if I make this a little bit, add the opacity a little bit, I can see that. And if I change the color of the outline, then I can see sort of get more of that view. So I'm going to increase this outline a little bit and put it up to maybe like 0.5. So that works for me right there. You, of course, may want to change these things, but like if you just take a look here at these little cluster, you can see where they kind of overlap, right? Okay, So we've got the color set. That's looking pretty nice. Let's just make sure our x-axis, y-axis are set. So for the x-axis, let's change a couple of things. One, I don't like that 45-degree angle, and that is a default in Flourish, and I want to fix that. So I'm going to go down to x-axis and styling, and not title, ticks and labels, and I'm going to change this to 45 degrees to 0. So on Flourish graphs where you have an x-axis under ticks and labels, you'll be able to set the styling and then change the angle to 0, which is really nice. Let's also add a title here, and so I'm just going to change that type, the axis title, from auto to custom, and I'm going to do full flowering year. That's coming right out of the data, so I'm just going to do that. There we go, loving that. And then let's make a change to our y-axis, and here really all I'm going to change, I mean the format's fine, it's how I defined it. Let's change the title here of our y-axis to full flowering day of year, and I'll tab out of that, and now I've got a title up there. Okay, a few other things that we could change, obviously. You can play with colors, you can do all sorts of things. One thing we obviously need here is a title. So let's add a title to this chart. And you can name it whatever you want, cherry blossoms over the years. So simple, really meaningless. So we could fix that later on. But that's sort of like your basic chart. Now, what I would love to have here is a trend line. Now, it doesn't really look like a trend line, but if I go to the trend line box and I click these various options, nothing pops up. So it turns out, and after a little testing, I sort of figured this out, that because I have dates on both axes, Flourish isn't going to add a trend line. I'm not going to be able to add a trend line to this chart because I have dates on either side. So here we have the basic scatter plot, full flowering year on the x-axis, and then the full flowering day of the year on the vertical axis. So go in, see if you can make out this chart, and then come back after the break, and we're going to do two things. We're going to just change this, tweak this a little bit more, and then I'm going to create another chart and push them together. Sort of like see how far we can push Flourish here. So take a break, just make this basic chart, and then come on back. Okay, welcome back. Let's extend this scatter plot just a little bit, just a couple of things I want to do. First thing I want to do is I want to add a non-white background to this. So I'm going to go to layout and I'm going to go to background color. I'm just going to change this background color. I've already sort of figured out what color I want to use. So I'm going to use this hex code 𝐶EEDFD. It's a nice blue color. That's pretty nice right there. I might turn off the x-axis and y-axis grid lines and axis itself if I wanted, but it's okay. However, whatever kind of makes you happy in that sense. The other thing I want to do is change the color palette. I want 3 colors here, 3 shades of pink. So I want a light pink for the flowers in March, April, and then May. So to do that, I'm going to go back to data, and I'm going to use that variable that we created at the beginning, that month variable. I'm going to change the color. I'm just going to add the color to column D, and that's going to tell Flourish to prompt to add an option to add color. So you can see here, now I have dot colors. So I'm going to change the number of bins here to 3. I want 3 bins. I'm going to set a color ramp here. So I've got light colors, middle, and dark colors. And then the last thing I do in the legend is I've actually gone down and typed in some months here. So instead of having just 3, the way it sort of was at the beginning, just March, just 3 to 5, I'm just going to type in the months here. Now, I haven't really been able to figure out how to get rid of the numbers too, but I think this is okay. So I like this as sort of like, so step 1, we just made the scatter plot. This is step 1A. Step 2, I want to create more, okay? What I want here, what I'd like to have ideally, is to have a bar chart next to my scatter plot, horizontal bar chart that shows the number of flowers at each day. So I can sort of show that marginal histogram. And you can't do that in the scatter plot template in Flourish. You have to build another chart and then bring them together. So I'm going to show you how to do that. It's kind of neat, actually. So I'm going to right click on week 2, and that's going to open up that week 2 file area in a new window. And I'm going to add a new visualization. And here I'm just going to add a bar chart. So I've got my bar chart. And now what I need, remember, you can't do the collapsing or calculated fields or formulas in Flourish the way you can in other tools. You have to do it in your spreadsheet tool. So I'm going to go, I'm using Excel here. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to calculate here using a pivot table and then just copy and paste over here. I use a pivot table to count the number of flowers for each day. So that's what my core data are set up here, is each day the number of flowers. So I'm gonna bring this data in differently just to show you. So before we uploaded the full data set, for this sort of aggregated data set, I'm just gonna copy. I'm gonna go back over to Flourish. I'm gonna clear the data that's here, and then I'm gonna paste in my data. And I'll just paste it in. The day comes in as text, that's fine. The count comes in as a number, that's looking good. And we've got a nice bar chart. There we go. So remember, what we want here is we want to put them next to each other. So we have to do a little bit of editing to get that set up. So first thing I want to do is flip my y-axis. If we go back to the scatter plot, remember May is at the top and March is at the bottom. So let's go back here and let's flip it. That's in the y-axis and just the toggle for flip axis. Great. Let's get rid of that legend. No one needs that. We know it's the count. And now let's change the colors. Okay, so let's go to colors. Now here, what I want to do is have a separate color for these 3 sets of bars. And so the way you start that, because right now it's by column, so I can't really change the column color. But if I go by row, it gives me all of these different colors. And I don't want that. And I can't really go in. I've been trying to figure out how to do this in the palette itself. I'm going to turn the extension off. And I thought I could sort of go in and edit this palette, but it doesn't seem to work. So ideally I would just go, I could do this. I can break these down, but, or have that last one there. But it's just changing every other one. Like it doesn't know that I want these 3 groups. So what I have to do is follow the instructions. So in the color mode or in the color override top window here, what you have to do is for each value in each row, set the color palette. So that means, again, we have to go back to our data because what we want to do is set a color palette for each row. So what I have, I'm going to bring in my hex code. Now I've already set these up. So if you're wondering, wow, if you're thinking, wow, he's really good at picking colors just off the top of his head. No, I've already written these down, so don't worry. So March, I want this lightest pink color. That's that one. For my middle month, for April, I want this color. So I'm just going to copy and paste. I could use VLOOKUPs and all sorts of fancy stuff to get this, maybe make this a little bit easier, but it's okay for what we're trying to do. And then down here, I want this last one. Now remember, what I want, let's go back. What I want here is it needs to be in this format. So it's the row value, colon, and then the color, okay? So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to concatenate this together. And in Excel, if I zoom in, all that is a simple formula. It's going to say equals the date, and I'm going to do quotation mark, colon, space, quotation mark, and that hex code. And you can see that I get the hex code set up the way I want it. So I'm going to copy those, come back over here, and just paste it right in, and I get my colors the way I want them. Light pink, slightly darker, darkest pink up here. So now I'm getting somewhere, right? This is what I want. I'm getting where I want to go. Okay, so the other thing I want to do here is I want to change the x-axis labels. They're always 45 degrees. It's a little, I'll say, a little aggravating to me. So I'm going to go down and change that to 0. And because I want it to match the other graph, I want to change the background color. So I need to go to Layout, go to Color. Again, I've already written down this color palette, CEDFD, press Return, and I've got that light color. And let's add some labels here, actually. So let's go back up, add our labels, and show the labels on the data points. And I'm going to put those outside the bar. They're okay there, but I'm going to move them outside the bar. I kind of like that a little bit better. And I think everything for now looks okay. So everything for now looks okay. So now I've got 2 visualizations. I've got my scatter plot. I've got my bar chart. And I'm going to call this bar chart. Okay, so now what I want to do is take these 2 visualizations and put them together. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to use a table in Flourish. So I'm going to right click again on my week 2 so I get back into that folder. I'm going to create a new visualization. Now bear with me. This is kind of neat. I have to say, I think this is pretty neat. I wish this would be, didn't have to sort of do this kind of janky way, but like it's pretty neat. And later on, I think as we build more in visualizations, we'll start to use the stories and the storytelling piece, and there'll be some more to use there. So I'm going to hit, I'm going to go down to table and hit the default table. And what I'm going to do is go to data. I'm just going to clear out all the data. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to my visualizations. I'm going to publish them. And so I'm going to go to the scatter plot. I'm going to hit publish and publish. And when it publishes, if I click on the more options button, I can get an iframe. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that iframe code into column A of my table. And I'm going to do the same thing for the bar chart. I'm going to publish it. And then I'm going to go over to the more options, hit the radio button, and select the code for iframe. Go back to my table and drop that one in. And you can see it's doing A to L. I don't need A to L, I just need A and B. And let's go to preview and see what we've gotten. Holy moly. Look at that. We've got the scatter plot and the bar chart next to each other. Now, it's not perfect yet, right? Like, we want these numbers aligned, right? We want May 7 on the chart on the right to match the chart on the left. And we also want to change we might want to change how these, how the text is showing up here. So, but with this here, let's just do one quick thing, and let's just change the background color to that same color. So the whole thing is going to, again, you need to make sure you keep your hashtag. So hashtag 𝐶EEDFD. And now this whole thing is blue. Okay, great. Now, how do we get to arrange these? There's a few ways to do it. And I'm not going to go through all the things that I would change here. But what we can do, if we go back to the bar chart and we go to layout and margins down here, we can up the top margin. So I'll just put in 10 and see what that looks like. Then I have to publish it again. So just republish. Then I go back over to my table. Let's call this table. And I hit refresh. And let's see. That is almost like right on. We're really close. And you can see what's messing things up, right? You can see that we have a title, an axis title on the left, but not an axis title on the right. So we can go back and just go back and forth to change these. So if I go back over here and go to x-axis and go to title and call this, number of flowers, or turn the axis off on the other chart and republish. Wait, goes green, refresh. And now we should have these aligned very nicely. Look at that. And we've got our colors matched up, right? We've got our colors matched up. Now there's a search bar up here. And I have not been able to figure out how to get rid of this search bar at the bottom. I don't know where it's coming from. There is a search here, so I can turn the search off at the top, but I don't know where this is coming from. So there's some things still like I haven't quite figured out. Even if I remove these rows and go back, it's still here. And okay, so I can definitely like change a few things in this chart. I might want to, again, change the format of the labels on the y-axis and change the numbers here. Lots of things I can still tweak, but as you can see, pretty quickly, pretty simply, I can make a pretty good dual chart right here. And the last thing I'll say before I go is we could also modify these tooltips, and we're going to do that in some future visualizations. But you can go in and play around in the pop-ups and panels menus to change and edit and format your pop-ups. So week 2 of Back to Viz Basics. We've got a scatter plot. In this case, we're doing 2 graphs and putting them together. I'm really excited about this kind of thing that we can do. So stay tuned for more. Subscribe to this page so you can learn about it. Make sure you share your visualizations with the hashtag B2VB. Ping me when you do it. Ping the folks over at the Back to Viz Basics project, Eric and Alyssa and others, and we'll start sharing and improving how we create our visualizations in the Flourish data visualization tool. All right. See you for week 3.